Hello everyone. Today's talk is titled Growing Through Your Intuition. And what Mr. Within will be talking about is specifically on what intuition is and how is it, how does it enter your lifestyle? What is it? And of course, I'm not here to give an answer to all men, but I'm here to give an answer as a man. And as one human being communicating to the world he knows and doesn't know. People say that intuition blends in your lifestyle when you trust life. If you don't trust life, your intuition will torture you because you know on some level you don't need to be doing the act. Think about that moment where you accidentally spill a glass of water on your table where you've been doing work. You begin to realize and notice and see that you, in your movements, have created an effect which you might not want to confront fully. And if you do not confront an aspect of your reality, the first immediate signs are fear and lack of ability and excuses of why your life is perfect. Whenever someone is telling you that life is perfect, it's very important to be aware that perfection is in your state of being and not in the forms that are considered by you to be kept eternal. Sometimes we think we're experiencing eternity through ideology and through certain things. For example, the idea of infinity, how does it make sense to a temporal being, right? Only if he is not temporal in his origination. The only reason man can be multidimensional is because he is. And also the only reason man can be objective is because he is. You see, you thought you were born in one context of reality, but you're born in both the infinite and that which is finite. We are present into a reality where our clarity is our most directest confrontation of what we are. So it doesn't matter, the stories become secondary. You could be in any story, you could be any character in life. You begin to suddenly see that the intelligence of the storyteller is all around you. And guess what? That emptiness and clarity in Zen was similar to how if all ends were reached by what man thought he was and where he's heading, he will see that he will still be here in the cosmos, in existence. I think what's even more important than teaching a child how to walk is how to be aware of life. And so some amount of that should come from external sources, and there should be a process of external learning and teachings where the person's understanding and his psychology is developing, his philosophical views are developing, his ambitions are developing. But in that, you see that you are not here to be like, how do I say, a bird expecting his, other birds to fly. You're not here working in that manner per se. When you become existentially a bit more sensitive. When you become existentially a bit more sensitive, depth is naturally there. So you're not looking there because you want to see, not out of curiosity, guys. This is not out of curiosity, because it's out of clarity. It is okay to be curious about clarity. That's the only thing that curiosity doesn't kill. Self-realization seems to be the greatest act of man, because it is what he can do to be aware of what he is before he shifts, before he transitions. It's very funny. We have the experience of death as something where, because we're seeing others die, we're thinking there is nothing. But what if the experiencer never transitions out of a reality, out of such projection? It's like reality still exists regardless of its subtlety or its gross aspect. what was the inspiration of the design, which is simply my voice and how I am a being here, is simply a suggestion. It's simply a suggestion that agreement does not satisfy when there is more to see. Intuition is something you've always had, not something you're getting or something you receive a message or something. It is a knowing within you that is certain of how you are manifesting regardless of the fluctuation. It's that moment where regardless of that video game you played, you were aware who put the CD in. And there was a power there that was unspeakable because the whole system could be shut off and the intelligence would continue. But it will no longer be the individual intelligence. We must be playful and acknowledge the plane of existence we are in. We must also acknowledge how if we begin to think that we're thinkers, we will constantly be confused in a certain approach, just an approach. That's an approach of life, to begin to see things in any way, you know, in a certain way. For me, intuition, I kind of, so far in my life, everything I've done so far, I've been growing with it. Or through it, let me say. Because what it kind of means is that I was having a very normal life where the way I was living, I was not even curious about deep ideas. I was actually very shallow. I was not thinking in such a way simply because it was not real for me. What really changed the quality of my life is not what I physically externally did. It was my awareness to how this experience that is always in the present moment, that is here. Let's not use the word present moment because that's building up connotation, you know? But just to say, your awareness to existence, which is innately there, is sprouting everything into manifestation. So you begin to pay attention to the nature of your awareness, and so all objects of experience become irrelevant, and the experiencer becomes relevant, which is that moment where you did not have the words for, but you knew what was happening. Do you see this? Our next transcendence, it seems like it doesn't want to delay. It wants to go so quickly. We want as beings to travel so quickly. We want to go quickly beyond the spectrum of duality. We just want to dive into the experience that on some level we are. So we need to realize man is working with stories. He better have an inspiring one. Second, man is also working with his experience. He better be very clear on what's happening to him. More than money, you want to know what's happening to you. I think that's more interesting, you know? Someone could come and offer me the greatest technologies that haven't even been built yet, and I would be like, no. I rather want to go in a forest and just see and observe the nature of what I am as existence before I dive into using something. Because when you use something, you become very mechanically put into as a user. Do you know? So conceptually, you are feeling really associated with what you're doing, but it's very important here to see what is the distinction between doingness and beingness. And for me, what Mr. Within has found is, it is for perception. It is perception that does the shift. Your perception is shifting. And this, you know, makes us question. There's deep areas. There's always unknown aspects to any idea. Any conversation ever brought could go on for infinity if the people could talk infinitely. But thank God man gets tired. I began consciously observing the creation in my environment, not creating in my environment. I stopped trying to do something or find something which I didn't know it was, but I just thought I had to find something, and I just stopped. And in that stopping, there was a significant, very tiny moment of emptiness. It's as if like I just caught it by a string, you know? As if everything's going on, you know, and just in that 1 second where you're taking that breath, you just suddenly become aware, wait a minute, it's meaningless. The whole thing is meaningless because there are moments of emptiness within all aspects of consciousness. The conscious and unconscious are in a certain projection, and based on that projection, the simulation can't be transcended. It can be known that it is an aspect of you, and just like how you are becoming aware that the finger is part of the palm and the palm belongs to the whole body, in that manner, you may recognize and realize and find to realize that is the core of existence within you. Intuition is the echo of such a voice. You think at first that because you see the concept of enlightenment, or just perhaps even the way I'm speaking and many other people are speaking about consciousness, that it's giving a shape. But sometimes many people know that shapes are needed to move a shape. So what that means is that the greatest thing that can move you is a shape which is real to you, and you can observe the nature of how you're perceiving things shaped. An aspect of you is aware beyond the need for an idea, because you have to think of who you are. Do you see this? You have to think of the finger. So before who's thinking, who is maintaining this? And that intelligence is not bound to a linearity that man cannot understand. In how we trust our experience and our moment of existence, regardless of where the human being is positioned, you will know some things, and this knowing is working so profoundly that right now that I'm saying these words, you're also aware that you know some things. The greatness of man can be found in the greatest vision of man, it seems. And it seems the greatest vision of man doesn't have a shape. So how can you tell a whole society that they are an intelligence beyond their worlds of words? And you see, you cannot, but you can create a mirror. And so the best lawyer seemed to be a mirror when nobody heard you. Oh man. Therefore, very intuitively recognize that you know yourself, because existentially you are a self-communication and a self-awareness. What is maintaining your system more than the instruments of the body we're given, the physical body, more than our apparatus, is the intelligence that is using the apparatus. Because users on some level are always present where the technology is being used. If man is alive, that eternal life is present there as long as the attention is there. The nature of our attention gives a moment in our experience where we have to see if we want to constantly go with the linear framework, or we just want to press the self-exploration button and see where we go. You need to recognize the nature of cognition. You need to recognize how, if you sat down to study your mind, what forms of comparison, what worlds of comparison would you have? All these questions, we'll see, will playfully be aspects of your life, aspects that are present. What inspires a talk is the experience of the speaker. And if the experience of the speaker has gone to the experiencer, there is no speaker. But through that intelligence, the knowing of what is spoken will be there. You need to realize that you can take the significance out of the immediate external relationship that you're in and begin seeing it more holistically, that your purpose cannot be known unless you are clear of what can be purposeful. And so your intuition is that moment where you begin to observe to see if there is a purpose, and you're seeing more than the purpose of your idea. You're seeing more than Bob's purpose to go to work tomorrow. You're seeing how what is keeping life is free beyond conceptualization. And so your experience does not need to be boxed. Why are we carrying so many boxes? Why is the mind not going in the present moment and experiencing things? Why is everything being put in thousands of boxes, and eventually we're like, gosh, which box should I take first? You know, of course, we split up the world into something that we can no longer see. You know, it's like that, I forget his name, but a physicist said that, this very interesting physicist, he said, he was talking about quantum physics, and it seemed like the way he was saying it, and based on how the testing was, he's like, there's one way of seeing what a jaguar is when you go see it all caged up, you know, and there's one way you go see a jaguar where it's free in the wild and it's running, you know, as if the nature of man's observation begins with an apparatus, he's not so commissive because he does not know. So what that means is more certain than we are of what we know is what we are sure we don't know, you know? Because if I just ask you and you've never cooked, and if I ask you, can you, I don't know, cook something that Hell's Kitchen would turn into Heaven's Kitchen, you know? You would say, I don't know, I haven't been, for example, taught that or whatever. You would see that you do not know it. And there, in your not knowing, is an honest expression of a clear view. And you will see that it's just not there, because the projection, it's like your thoughts on life are running way too fast than you're walking. And so if they run too fast, we'll be like, oh my God, it's as if right now I feel I'm a millionaire, but I haven't done anything, you know? I feel I've made millions, but gosh, how much destruction am I caused, for example, you know? Or how much construction, you know, it depends on who you are. What Mr. Within can say is that you just gotta trust it. You just gotta know life, you gotta look life, you gotta be like, all right, I've lived here a certain amount of years. I have a certain amount of trust in what this is. Right? And don't let any other man's words dictate anything for you if that person is not really seen by you. It's not being seen by the heart. Sometimes we look at people, we can look at them as if they are a competition and they only want for themselves, or we can suddenly be in a perception that I trust life so much that I will trust my moment, regardless of who's in it, you know? One day, you know, your moment, darkest night of the soul. Another moment, you know, you have just, you know, entered the pure land. It's very fascinating. It's very fascinating. And may this intuition lead you to an understanding that you gotta go through this life process. And all that I can say, and any human being can say to you, is just be more self-observant, know what is happening, because that is where all your values are coming from. And from that awareness, walk gracefully. We must not let our sense of ego, in quotations, to limit the ability of us as a biological being to connect to natural technologies which are in our nature. It's like, if you went and saw the shaman's grandfather, that shaman's grandfather, you'd begin to see that it's as if the ability of the lineage originates from a great being. Do you see? And how I would say that again is, you can see that there are different worlds, and sometimes you would see some beings, they are so able in their worlds that they are their worlds. You know, their experience is no longer someone in it, you are it. And so when you go and see the state of consciousness that man was and came to, it seems, based on his reference, we are the insignificance of our unaware creation, which we then call our illusion. It's as if that moment you finished painting on the canvas, the painting wasn't done. Your mind was constantly going, all thoughts were going, you know? There was a whirlwind of ideas, and then in that whirlwind you were like, gosh, where am I? And you would see you're here. And so, you will be guided, because you're guided by the most profoundest understanding of self. Realize that some aspects of this plane of existence, as Mr.Within would say, and especially in the context of the powers of consciousness, what this really means is that as you become aware of self, you begin gaining an ability to find new relationships with other. And as you are aware of these senses of other, you begin to see that many senses of self can be created too. So you begin getting a simultaneous nature in your experience, and other gets a simultaneous experience. And when they are simultaneously there, they were always there. Do you see? The one and the two were always being observed in an instant awareness. And that instant was it. Your intuition is you trusting the flow of your existence. And you will see that right now, many people don't realize it, but it's as if we're being poked by 100 hands. By so many hands, you know, and it's just like as we're being poked, we suddenly begin to silence and still our mind and see the poking will stop, and the approach was never our approach. It was just what we agreed without our own clear view. I feel like there's more I want to communicate about intuition, but I feel that what wanted to, in a sense, be communicated energetically has been through this stuff. There's much that can be said on intuition, but if I continue, it would point to my reality, and that is not the focus that much. Your reality is the focus. The reality where your awareness is directly experienced. Your intuition will sometimes be involuntary actions where you will not understand what you're doing. But you will see that that action is being involuntary because your voluntary had limited perception. And so it's as if you're meeting at the edge of your world to see a new one. And that sense of novelty is a knowing which you have right now before you go through the experience, and that is where intuition seems to always be there before us. You see? So know your awareness, and in doing so, there will be no need for words. Much blessings and namaste.